The modern world has gifted us conveniences and technology that have made our everyday lives much easier and far safer. Rapid innovation has pushed our culture forward, and competition within industries has turned progress from linear to exponential. Specifically, the explosion of the internet has created greater economic mobility and more opportunity than ever before. Yet, this industrial progress coincides with alarming rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide. Despite a greater quality of life, access to food, and increasing life expectancy, our happiness has plummeted over the past few decades. So why is this? Because at first glance, it just wouldn't make any sense. We have grocery stores with an abundance of food, we have technology that allows us to generate income and communicate with family and friends across the world, we have medical technology that can cure diseases that would have been a death sentence just a few decades ago, yet we're more unhappy now than generations that lived through World War II or the Vietnam War. So how is that possible? I believe the complicated answer revolves around our inclinations towards materialism and conformity. Materialism has been the foundation of our society for quite some time now. We idolize exuberant celebrities, dream of luxuries, and contribute to an economy that churns out the new thing year after year after year. Our happiness gets tied to having the next greatest thing or going on that next vacation, which only incentivizes us to put our nose to the grindstone, work ourselves to death, only to never reach this utopian life that we imagine for ourselves. The frustrating truth is that happiness will always be relative. Think about it. You get the new car, you get the new house, you get a larger income, and it's exciting and you might be grateful for it in that moment. But eventually, the newness rubs off and the excitement dissolves along with it, and that becomes your new normal, your new baseline. It's the same way that the device you're watching this video on now seems normal to you, but would be a luxury to someone living in poverty. So the problem with tying our happiness to materialism is that we'll always be longing for that next thing. That newness, that happiness that we get from that item is always going to be temporary. Now, the second cause for our diminishing happiness revolves around conformity and our reliance upon social expectations. Possibly worse than seeking the next new thing is seeking continuous approval from family, friends, or society. By attaching our idea of happiness to what others have, or the facade that is social media, we end up with distorted desires. Fun is tied to drugs, success is tied to money, and if you don't fit in or follow the standard path, you become an outcast. And what develops is this sense of FOMO, fear of missing out, where if you don't party like everyone else, if you don't have what everyone else has, if you don't do what everyone else does, you just feel wrong. And just like materialism, this creates this unsatisfiable desire for things outside of ourselves. In Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, he illustrates this perfectly when one of the characters within his dystopian world states, "All conditioning aims at that, making people like their unescapable destiny." Society wants you to believe that happiness is found in following the trends and doing what you're supposed to do, rather than looking internally and defining your own purpose. In reality, happiness is a chimera. It's a fleeting emotion that we wish to hold on to, but it inevitably escapes us. It's like a balloon that continuously slips out of our grasp as soon as we catch it. No matter what we add to our lives, we can never adopt happiness as a permanent state of being. In fact, Aristotle believed that happiness wasn't contained in a particular activity or object, but rather was something that was achieved through the course of a lifetime. Happiness is not pleasure, nor is it virtue. It is the exercise of virtue. Happiness cannot be achieved until the end of one's life. Now, that's not to say we can't do anything to increase how often we feel happy or reduce the experience of sadness. All I'm pointing out is that happiness, like any emotion, is not permanent, and placing our happiness in the hands of factors outside of ourselves is dangerous. I think German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer put it perfectly when he stated, "It is difficult to find happiness within oneself, but it is impossible to find it anywhere else." If we're always reliant upon things outside of ourselves, whether that be approval or certain people or material items, we lose the ability to find and create our own happiness. We're forever dependent upon things outside of our control. So you're probably wondering, what's the solution? The answer is, it depends, because as you know, everyone's life, situation, interests are vastly different from one another. But there are some principles I stand by. The first of which is practicing gratitude. Now, I don't write down everything I'm grateful for in the morning or the evening, although that works for some people. What I try and do to practice gratitude is look at life through a perspective of abundance rather than scarcity. So what that looks like is I'm thankful, incredibly thankful for everything that I currently have, and any new car or better income or improvement in my life is icing on the cake. Whereas scarcity would have you obsessing over everything you don't have and looking at life through that glass half empty perspective. Another principle I rely upon for achieving happiness is focusing on balance rather than thirsting for those extreme highs. Extreme thrills and happiness have their place, but they're usually followed by melancholy or sadness. It's similar to spending a few $1,000s on a dream vacation on an island or a resort. You have the best time, but when you come home and you return to work, you feel miserable in comparison. In my opinion, we should prioritize balance while we're pushing for progress. So while I encourage you and myself to continue pushing for our goals, we can't rely upon that goal to bring us long-lasting happiness. Balance and the right amount of gratitude will bring us much more emotional stability. In the end, happiness will always be a tricky and elusive subject. The answer is different for everyone, and that's why I think it's important for the individual to discover it for themselves. But regardless, I hope the ideas and principles I brought forth in this video can provide some kind of positive impact in your life, and you got something out of it. If you did, please like the video, subscribe for more content like this, and comment below what are your thoughts on happiness? How do you achieve it? What do you think about this? And I'll catch you guys in the next one.